This is a video 9 years in the making. Who was Charles Williams? I'm so glad you asked. I am by no means a scholar. I am merely a fan and a lover of Charles Williams's work. I discovered his writing and his novels in 2015. My friend and I really wanted to read something by one of the Inklings, but one of the lesser known Inklings. And that started us on the journey of falling in love with and reading every single novel written by Charles Williams. First off, who was he? He was an English poet, he was a theologian, and a novelist, and he wrote many books. He wrote 7, in fact. He wrote from 1920 until his death in 1945. I found him through the most famous literary discussion group from Oxford, and that was known as the Inklings, most notably the members being C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, but he is also one of the Inklings, and he was very present in their discussions. He seems to have been a very charismatic person, and he drew people in. I think that is what shows in a lot of his novels is how people can be entranced and enthralled by people of a certain charisma. He didn't always use his charisma in a good way. I will link this discussion below from an actual Charles Williams academic. She says it a lot better than I can. So the types of books that he wrote. Now, he was a theologian. Wow. He was a theologian, and he loved to explore different levels of Christianity in his books, but he also had a very secret, no, not secret, he had a very big love of the occult and anything sort of esoteric. So you see a lot of that in his works. Anything from mysterious cult leaders come from the center of Africa to Platonic ideals come to life, or tarot cards and the dance and how it evolves in our lives, as well as Lilith and succubi and doppelgangers. And he mixed all of these in with Christian theology, and it's fascinating. Personally, I find his books to be an exploration of the wonder and mystery of God as well as unseen forces in our day to day lives. I use the word referential when I talk about his work a lot, in that he references so many things. He references Wordsworth and Dante and Shakespeare and the Bible and a number of other ones that I'm sure I am missing because he is so, he quotes so many things. I find I catch maybe half of them, maybe even just a third of them. And sometimes I Google things and it just comes back to his work. So even Google doesn't always get his references. His style, I find, is unusual and it does take a little bit of time to get into. I am currently on my second reread of his 7 books, and I'm finding the more I read them, the easier I can understand the flow of his language. He writes in a cinematic way. He writes descriptively and poetically, and sometimes you feel like you understand what's going on, and then 2 sentences later, it's like, I'm sorry, what? And that is normal. That is absolutely normal. And from all of the essays that I've read, that seems to be the reaction. He can explore such odd topics and paint such vivid pictures of things that one can only imagine happens in very fantastical works. It is such a wonder and a pleasure to read, and I don't mind that these books that are only 150 pages take a long time to read purely for the imagination and the thickness of the prose that he manages. One of the critiques that he gets is his characters tend to sometimes toward cardboard, in that they maybe appear flat because sometimes he just makes a character serve a purpose and they're sort of just functioning as that thing. And yes, that happens. However, the more I delve into it, I find that he tends to focus on one or two characters per book, and those characters tend to be more rounded and more full. And he's exploring such incredibly big concepts, such as redemption and forgiveness, or basically a descent into nothingness and hell. His works always take place in this world, and something is happening in this world to make it not quite right. Forces, esoteric symbols, or like tarot cards are starting to involve themselves in our day to day activities and making it very strange for the people inhabiting the world. I have found that his novels are fantastic to discuss with other people. So if you ever want to delve into his stuff, find a person who's willing to take this journey with you, because it is a journey, and a wonderful journey at that. Now, I do have a book, now I don't have it down here, but of Charles Williams' essays. And it's all about focus on each of his novels and kind of explains it a little more in depth and scholarly, and tells you where some of the references come from and what topics he's exploring. Because if you don't have that, sometimes it's difficult to understand what he's getting into. So, of all of his books, the ones that I would most recommend would be, oh, I don't have it here. I have to go up and get it. So I left it upstairs, and that is The Place of the Lion. Rereading this one, I can see why this one is recommended as the best place to start for Charles Williams. This is Platonic Ideals Come to Life in an English Countryside. And here you get a mix of philosophy, Platonic ideals, mixed with celestials and angels, and the concepts therein of the heavenly hierarchy. And it is wild and so fun, and probably has, I would argue, his best character in Anthony. And Anthony is someone that we follow the whole way. Now, Anthony borders on just a little bit too perfect, but I do believe he is Charles Williams' finest character. The other one that I would recommend as a starter would be Descent into Hell. This one I am going to be reading next year, so forgive me if I'm a little rusty, because the last time I read it was 2017. However, this has stuck with me as one of his finest works. This follows definitely his most explored topic of why some people get redeemed and some people descend into hell. Along the way, we have two characters that are given many choices, and we get to see how one person can take choices that help her ascend, and one man who takes choices and he descends. This has doppelgangers and succubi and Lilith come to life in an English countryside. This has one of the most devastating endings I have ever read, and I think this one is a perfect read for the Halloween season. Now, if you wanted to know what his other books are about, I can do just a quick synopsis of them after my title thing, but thank you so much for watching this video about one of my most loved authors ever. My name is Karen. I'm the Book Librenaut. I explore all types of books, but mostly I love Charles Williams. We'll see you again soon. Bye. All Hallows Eve is about a woman who gets stuck in the in between world, and her fiance is dealing with an enigmatic cult leader who's trying to control the life beyond death. Shadows of Ecstasy is following, you guessed it, a cult leader from Africa who seems to have discovered the key to immortality, and the characters surrounding him are trying to figure out how and where he came from and why and what did he do, and this one's just kind of really fun. Many Dimensions is about the crown of Suleiman and this cube that can traverse time and space. The Greater Trumps is about tarot cards and the original tarot cards and how they can influence our lives and them being in the clutches of people that would use them in a most diabolical manner. And War in Heaven, forgive me, is my least favorite one, but this one reads like a romp on the English countryside wherein the main characters are trying to find the Holy Grail. Thanks so much for watching!